The felon and Elon Musk go nuclear, and the spy in the camp is the winner. Let's look into that. Welcome to Scrying Out Loud. My name is Trevor. First off, a huge thank you to everybody who's subscribed to the channel, to everybody who likes, watches, and comments on the videos. If you're promoting the channel in any way, a huge, huge thank you. If you've donated money to the channel through Venmo, Buy Me a Coffee, the Super Thanks, a big, big, big thank you. It's all greatly appreciated, and it definitely has not gone unnoticed. So yesterday was a pretty wild ride between Elon Musk and the felon, exchanging words on camera, followed by responses via tweet. And I think most of you probably know the story, but just a little bit of a synopsis. Elon Musk has been criticizing the big, beautiful bill. The felon said, well, he's never said anything really bad about me. He's just said, I wish he would attack me and not the bill. And then Elon Musk goes and attacks the felon, calling him a liar about Elon knowing what was in the bill, and in particular, calling him a liar because the felon said that um, there was a mandate that was going to make us all buy electric vehicles, which of course is absurd. Um, so Elon Musk correctly calls that out as a lie, and then the felon comes back and he's been claiming that he's fired Elon Musk. We'll never know if that's really true. And Elon Musk then comes back at the felon and says, the felon's in the Epstein tapes or in the Epstein files. Have a good day. Uh, DJT, I think is how he said the truth. Have a good day, DJT. And the felon then says, well, we're going to cancel all the contracts to Elon Musk. That's the best way to save money. Actually, that might have happened before the Epstein tweet. I'm not sure exactly the order. I didn't write that down, but it doesn't really matter. The point is, if what I've been saying for many months is starting to play out, that eventually the felon's relationship to Epstein and other similar activities is going to get exposed. It's a matter of time. Still not sure whether it happens before he leaves the planet. Um, Steve Bannon, after this, said, oh, the president, meaning the felon, should investigate Elon Musk's immigration status, his drug use, and various other things like that. And then there was somebody posted a tweet or somebody tweeted that the felon should be impeached and replaced with Vance, to which Elon Musk agreed with that assessment. So um, it's started exactly kind of as we've been talking about over the last several months. Something big has shifted. Somebody commented the day before yesterday or something like that that they felt a big energy shift, that their anxiety was lessening, and which that's fantastic if your anxiety is lessening. Um, is that related to some big shift in the energy in the country? It could be. Is there some big shift in the energy of the country? That I think is certain. So there's several questions I want to look at. One, does Elon actually have some things to follow through with the Epstein threat? Will the felon try to cancel the contracts? Um, will there be investigations into Elon Musk's immigration status, drug use, etc.? And the spy in the camp is the winner. And was the imagery that I got when I was scrying this morning. It was like this. Let's say this is Musk, this is the felon, and up here dangling the strings like the puppeteer was JD Vance. And it makes you wonder, did JD Vance somehow instigate the beginning of this tit for tat? Two narcissists going at one another is never going to end well. So all you have to do is light the match. You don't really have to do much. And with all these videos going around Twitter of the felon running around with Epstein and dancing with Epstein at parties and all just tons of videos and pictures of the felon with Epstein flying around Twitter yesterday and then even this morning, doesn't that make Vance the winner? I don't know. Let's look into all that. So let's first start with the question of does Elon Musk actually have the goods on the Epstein files, or is he privy to things that are more revealing even than the Epstein files? Now, I've always felt that he was. I've read on this several times. We always get a yes. Um, and you might ask yourself, well, what was the breakup about? And I think at the heart of it, the breakup is about Elon Musk realizing that people now are considering him the person who's responsible for children dying in Africa because of the cutting to the USAID programs. And people are considering Elon Musk, as the person that fired a whole bunch of federal employees. Now, interesting enough, the New York Times had an interview with one of the Doge uh, people and said, no, no, it was actually the heads of each of the departments that decided on the cuts. They just implemented them. True or not, uh, it's was an interesting uh, read. I don't know that I necessarily believe it completely. I think there might be some truth to it. Tesla stock dropped 15% on Thursday while this was going on. That makes you also wonder if the situation isn't more intricate and more complicated than we realize. I don't think it is, but we'll read on that as well. Um, so just even does Musk have the goods to take down the phone? Does he actually is he actually sitting on the goods? So I'm getting images of Xi Jinping and Putin in the water. I think Musk's relationships with those two individuals are stronger than we realize. Elon Musk, I don't think has any loyalty to the United States, which is, I mean, that's his prerogative. But I don't think it was his intention to ever take down the felon. I think it was his intention to come out looking good. He's just too dumb to realize that that was never going to happen. Like he never learned the lesson that everything Trump touches dies. He just is just not a very smart person. This is a new beginning. The energy has shifted. It's a new reality. It is going to be a wild summer. It's going to be a rocky summer. It's unfortunately it might be a popcorn eating summer, but unfortunately, I think it's going to cause some damages to trade and stuff like that along the way. So, be prepared for those type of things. Not financial advice, just a tarot reading and for entertainment purposes only. It's a new beginning. We get justice in the environment around. It's the start of things starting to come back into balance. So justice is all about things coming into balance. And when things are really out of balance, the universe has a way of pulling it back. And it's hard to stay balanced, but getting out of balance, the universe pulls it back. And I think that's what we're seeing here. We get the Five of Swords being wounded in battle, even mortally wounded in battle, if you wish. In the upper right, we'll have to get the full context of that card here in just a second. We get a new financial reality for MUSK, and um, I don't think he actually cares about that. I don't think MUSK ever, I mean, I think he wanted to be rich. He succeeded at that. I think then he wanted to be powerful, and he failed at that. And whether he has, $400 billion or $80 billion, it's irrelevant to him. It's not going to change the way he lives. So I don't think money's ever really been a motivator for him. I know a lot of people disagree with me on that, but that's just what I've always sensed. At the center of the reading, this idea of becoming powerful, I think, is the motivator. And if one plan doesn't work, try another. And I think we're on the secondary plan here, which is to just take down the person in charge. We'll see whether it happens or not. There's many things that can happen in between, some sort of truce kind of agreement is certainly possible. I think we'll start to see negotiations uh, from people interacting with MUSK and from interacting with the felon, trying to get them to calm the situation down. I think the main negotiator is going to be Vance. Why? I just feel like Vance kind of knew how to play them. And this whole situation is not really surprising to Vance. Just like it's kind of not really surprising. Um, if you've been watching this channel, it's really kind of not surprising, right? We've been expecting this to happen, and it's started. So there are things going on behind the scenes that we can't see. This feels like that Vance energy to me. Um, we get the Ace of Wands, which is about firing new leadership, which is a very interesting card to pull. In this diagonal, we'll go through it here in just a second. Complete and utter downfall, being stabbed in the back. This is the felon. We get this card for him all the time. It just now has more context. And we get a lot of anxiety. And this anxiety is kind of all over the map. It affects people in different ways. Um, it affects the felon in one way. It affects us as citizens in another. It affects people in other countries in a different way too. So if we've already been highly anxious, our anxiety might have lessened. And if we had been relatively calm, our anxiety might have risen a little bit. But this is a new beginning. MUSK has a plan. The first plan to try to get into power by being part of the administration didn't work. So try the next plan. I think that's basically nuclear in the sense of trying to take down the felon. This is causing anxiety for kind of everybody involved, even MUSK, the felon, and other tertiary actors in the situation. We're going to end up with some fiery new leadership, not fiery in the sense of the way they lead, but fiery in the sense of the way they get into the position. It's going to seem um, plotted. Let's say, I don't think it actually plays out that way, but they're not going to impeach the felon. He's not going to be removed from office. That's not going to happen. But the plan here is to promote Vance as the person who should be in charge. And that really is one of the secondary or tertiary plans of MUSK in this war with the felon. And here's the felon completely wounded in battle because he doesn't really have anything to fire back at Musk. He just doesn't. Musk doesn't care if he has $80 billion or $1 trillion. To him, it's all the same. It doesn't really matter because your lifestyle doesn't change. After you have so much money, it just really doesn't matter. You can buy whatever you want, do whatever you want. I just don't think money's his motivator. Uh, so in the environment around, we have justice bringing things back into balance. So in the beginning, there was this relationship between Musk and the felon. Musk, by the way, did claim credit for helping the felon win the election, and what he's talking about is, all the money he spent and using his social media platform. That's what that's about. It's not about anything else. Um, and I have lots of readings on that if you want to look back on them. So it started out as kind of a harmonious relationship. Then they get into power, and slowly Musk starts being perceived as the bad guy. And then justice is coming and is going to pull it back. But it might swing this way where the felon's the bad guy for a while, and then things balance out. But of course, to us on this channel, they're both terrible human beings. There are things behind the scenes going on. I think somebody lit the match here. Um, I have a feeling, probably never going to really find out how that happened, but it just feels to me like this is something Vance was involved in, just planting little seeds, because it's so easy to manipulate the felon. And Elon Musk is maybe just slightly smarter than the felon, not super smarter than the felon. I imagine it's somewhat easy to manipulate him as well. And as a result, we kind of all are living in this new reality uh, around money. Big stock market fluctuations yesterday. Wouldn't be surprised if we see that again today. Um, and the felon ends up in the state of being stabbed in the back, and this being his complete and utter downfall. And for us, it's the beginning, at least, of the end of the very dark cycle. In fact, we might even be past the beginning. We might be somewhere in the middle stages of it. Um, so underneath, we have these fiery messages coming forward. These are all these tapes. Now, these tapes have been around. They're nothing new. It's just the MAGA folks been ignoring them. So now they're being thrown in their face because Twitter is a MAGA platform. And something's coming forward about things, money or things being exchanged that are of value. I think this has to do with the felon's finances, repayments of loans and debts, for entertainment purposes only. I think this is about blackmail. I have lots of videos on that too. And ultimately, we get the truth with the Sun card, which is great for us, the citizens and the voters, which is represented by the Four of Wands. And we get death. And I think this is a physical death of the felon. Um, the timing of that's really hard to predict, but I've always felt it's in the late summer, early fall. Um, our definitions might differ by what that means, but to me, that's like from, you know, late August through, mid-November, something in that range. Okay. So Musk definitely has the goods and he's willing to use them. So can the felon counteract that? I don't know that he can, because what's the worst that happens? Musk gets deported. He has plenty of money. You can buy citizenship in many countries. Um, by, out of curiosity, I looked into some of the stuff after the felon announced he was running for president, and um, I felt pretty confident he was going to become president. And I think, for example, in like Colombia, if you just keep $15,000 or something like that invested, you can become a citizen. So there's all that. Okay, so will the felon cancel Musk's contracts? Now, some people might think this would be devastating to Musk. I just don't think he really cares that much. Um, I mean, I think the only person he actually cares about is himself, and he knows that he has enough money that it doesn't really matter. Um, it's not like he can't choose to do whatever he wants to do every day. He can't. He could choose to buy the biggest house in the world if he wants, regardless of what the felon does. So I just I think power is more of his driver than wealth, but which is a little bit scary. So will they cancel these contracts? I've seen the Hierophant, which is about the government, but it's also about the courts. I think, again, just like with Harvard, lawsuits have already struck down both of those executive orders, the one that targeted international students and then the one that targeted new international students by revoking their visas. Both have been struck down already. Of course, we'll have to see how the actual cases go forward once they're heard on the merits, but I can't see them getting any better. So will they cancel the contracts? We get the King of Swords. I feel like people are going to try to talk him out of it because it's not in his best interest, although he might not realize that because, you know, the felon's cognitive issues are just getting worse and worse and worse. He didn't really even know what D-Day was about today when he was talking with the German chancellor. He said D-Day was a bad day for Germany, and it's like, well, which Germany? Certainly not the modern day Germany that's thriving, right? I mean, just a complete misunderstanding. Yeah, I think he's going to be constrained by the courts as well with the Eight of Swords. I don't think that he's actually going to be able to do it, even if he wants to. There's not going to be much of an appetite for it because the felon is more scared of Musk than Musk is of the felon. The power dynamic is not equal, and Elon Musk knows that. So we do get the Emperor card, though, abuse of power. We might try some things. Something's inevitable. Should probably keep going here before I form a full opinion. We hit the Three of Swords, though. It's like, it's almost like something happens to the felon before it could be implemented. That the felon leaves. It's not like you just say, oh, we're canceling this contract and it gets canceled. It's kind of like, if you have a standing order with Netflix and you go to cancel Netflix, you still have Netflix until the next billing cycle, right? So it's not really quite that simple. We get the Seven of Wands, defending oneself. The felon's going to feel the need to defend himself. Um, but we get the Fool and the environment around, new beginnings, a lot of newness. And we get the card for the voters. So it's kind of like cooler heads in the government prevail. Now, personally, canceling the contracts, I don't know if it's uh, would be a horrible thing for the citizens of the United States and of the world if they were canceled. I don't know that it's a good thing either. I'd have to do a little bit more research on it. Um, but it's certainly, I don't think, going to affect our day-to-day lives one way or another. If we're a Tesla stock owner, I think it affects our lives. But other than that, I don't think it does. Um, Something's inevitable, And I think what's inevitable is that the voters end up winning, the people come out ahead. And I think that's that justice card. It really kind of doesn't have to do with those two so much as it has to do with the world coming back into balance. The felon's going to feel the need to defend himself, which is completely inevitable. But the people of the country and then the government are going to just react with like, what else is new? Oh, he's saying another mean thing. At least trying something else. Yeah, we're kind of over it. It doesn't like nothing really can shock us at this point. Well, probably shouldn't have said that, but hopefully that's true. He's still going to try some sort of abuse of power. He's going to be constrained by his actual role. And I think this is kind of where Musk got off track when he entered the government, is he didn't really understand how government works and how the judiciary can undo things that Congress does if it's not constitutional. So we end up at this like new beginning, and the felon, I think, ends up heartbroken, or even perhaps worse, this is a symbol for his health and his heart, his physical heart, something being wrong with that, and this like making the situation worse. And another reading I was getting that it's kind of maybe even more than just his heart. It's kind of a lot of organs are starting to fail. Uh, Guardrails get put back into place to stop this type of behavior. So the courts are going to strike it down. There's going to be a lot of just fighting back and forth, but it's kind of like, I can't remember the quote. I had it at the tip of my tongue and then I lost it. It's like, uh, it's just all noise is what it's basically going to amount to. Um, with the exception of revelations being found out about the felon if he's not careful. So, are they going to cancel the contracts? Maybe. I mean, he might try it. I don't think that it's successful. And even if it is successful, I don't know that it happens um, in a timely manner to where he's still there to see it happen. Okay, so will they investigate his citizenship? So he's a citizen. There were a lot of conspiracies on the internet that he wasn't. There is some evidence to suggest that he lied on some of his applications for visa renewals and stuff like that, and that he held positions that he wasn't supposed to hold with the certain type of visa that he was on, right? Some visas you're not allowed to work with, some you are. Was the Ten of Swords, complete and utter downfall. Um, so will they investigate that? Again, I don't know that it matters if they do. I don't think the courts are going to let them deport him. Let's see. Hard to say though. Are they going to look into this? And the thing that the courts might allow though would be investigations into drug use, insider trading, all these things that, we fired all these inspector generals that were looking into Musk. Those could all come back. That I don't think he could stop. So we get the Eight of Swords. I think Musk might get cornered, so to speak, if the felon chooses to go down this route. Um, Now it'll be others that drive this. Bannon was the one suggesting it, so it's others that will be driving it. But the felon's so easily manipulated that he might choose to do it. The seeds have definitely been planted in his head to try this. We do get the Six of Swords in upper right. Let's see what that uh, means here in just a second. We get the Page of Wands and the environment around. So messages coming forward have a kind of controversial nature. think it's, sometimes things haven't been decided, right? This is still pretty new. So we get the Wheel of Fortune at the center of the reading, which makes me think it's kind of a 50-50 proposition on whether it happens. We have the Democrats and the environment around. I don't think any Democrat's going to stop investigations into Musk. Now, the deportation, I think, would get stopped by the courts, but investigating him for criminal activity, that's not going to get stopped by the courts. And if he's indicted, that's not going to get stopped by the courts either. Things will proceed as they should. Yeah, but we get ill health. And this, I just don't think the felon is around long enough for this to come to fruition. But, you do get the Emperor card too, the environment around the abuse of power. He could kick off this kind of thing, and who knows where it goes from there. And then we get the Four of Cups. It's almost like the people aren't really going to care one way or another. I don't think people have real much empathy for Musk. And probably the majority of people think that he has committed crimes. Um, you know, so that'll be for the courts to determine. So I do think Musk feels a little bit confined. It's like he's gambling slightly. It's kind of like a 50-50 proposition in a sense. The people aren't going to care one way or another. But I think ill health informs the decision. And I think it's the felon's health that kind of keeps these things stopped. And then we get moving out of troubled waters. And I think if they're not started and in full swing before the felon goes, then they're probably just not going to happen. So a lot of it's dependent upon uh, how long he's around. But certainly the seeds have been planted, the messages have been spoken. Democrats certainly aren't going to stand in the way because the Democrats were railing against the inspector generals being fired. So the felon abusing his power in the sense of restarting these investigations, I don't even know if that's an abuse of power. The abuse of power was stopping the investigations. So I think, it's probably more likely than not, but I think it depends a lot on whether this can happen before uh, the ill health becomes too much. So things coming to the surface. There are guardrails in place. The Nine of Wands, I've said this card would be super important. We've already seen it twice today. So um, it's possible that they go after him. And I think Democrats would probably go after him too. So um, yeah, it's like the tale of, two idiots trying to rule the world. And if they had just stood back and not done anything, they could have lived a pretty lavish life without any consequences. But instead, they tried to get power, and now they're going to karmically be brought down to where they have very little respect from the people of the world. That's what I've always kind of seen happening. So so Musk agreed with a tweet that said, impeach the felon, make Vance president. My question is was this kind of all part of a really clever and manipulative way? JD Vance cannot be trusted whatsoever. He says one thing, does another. You know, the felon is America's, equivalent of the leader of Germany in the late 30s and 40s, early 40s. I think he meant that when he said that, but then he kind of acts like he never said it. Oh, I wasn't fully informed when I said it at the time, these kind of things. So I don't think we ever really know what he's thinking. So it sounds a little bit far-fetched that he would be able to ignite this match, except for the images that I got of him playing, the puppeteer just really felt like he kind of manipulated it all. It's like he kind of went along with putting Musk in the government, and then, he kind of allowed Musk to be maligned, probably correctly maligned, for cutting aid and jobs, was pretty silent on it, sort of went along with it. And then, in the Oval Office with Zelensky, he kind of instigated that. But what do we think about when we think about that? We really think about how embarrassing the felon was. And, the media kind of forgets that Vance was there. And, Vance has been the one traveling the world and kind of representing the country, with a few exceptions. The felon did go to Saudi Arabia, and I think he's going to Canada later this month, right? I think that's right. Um, so is Vance the winner here, I guess? If anybody's the winner, it feels like it's got to be Vance. Is Vance the And I know a lot of people have asked me, does Vance become president after the felon leaves? And you might not like my answer, and that's okay. But the answer is yes, because that's just how the Constitution works. That's not me seeing anything profound. There's just really no other option. So unless, Vance were to have left the planet before the felon, and then which case it would be Johnson. And if Johnson were gone, then it would be Chuck Grassley, who's 92. And if Chuck Grassley were gone, then it'd be Marco Rubio. And that's just the way it works. It just goes down the chain of command. So now I've always thought that when Vance becomes president, he kind of moderates things and stops the insanity a bit. I don't think he's a good president by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think he can be trusted. Um, but I think he'll be worried about winning a re-election versus the felon will never run for president again. So that's why he's a bit more bold. So is Vance the winner in this? Yeah, it's like, see the Ace of Wands, which is, it could be like a promotion, which, would be him being promoted to president. I don't know that that's a direct result of this feud, but it's kind of an indirect result, in the sense that he will gain legitimacy before it happens, versus if the felon were to just leave the planet without anybody really ever talking about it, there would be this period where people are going to question. Legitimacy is not the right word. Uh, the MAGA people, and more of the MAGA people, are just going to kind of be okay with it. They're not going to be upset by it, because they'll have thought it and have seen it in their heads. So we get justice in the upper left. So things coming into balance, the truth, being revealed about the felon, which leads to him leaving in the sense of, I think, passing. I don't think that he's ever impeached and removed. I guess it's theoretically possible. It just doesn't feel like there would even be enough time for that to happen before he goes from the planet. There'd have to be a lot coming out really fast, and then it would have to move really quickly, and it just kind of feels like it's not going to go that way. Um, so things are going to move quickly with the Eight of Wands, meaning Vance is probably going to be president and not too distant of the future, probably certainly before the end of the year. Um, yeah, Vance is the victor, the Six of Wands. And we get the Four of cups. This is in the environment around. It's like he's felt for quite a while that he is just keeping his head above water, but this was all part of a grand scheme. And I don't think any one of us knows exactly what he thinks, believes. I don't know that his wife even knows. Um, I think his financiers will become irrelevant because Vance will be smart enough to know that once he's president, he doesn't need them. So I just, I think we have no idea really what to expect, but we get stability at the center of the reading. And this is kind of what I've always seen is that even though Vance is this squirmy, slimy individual, I don't think we need to necessarily be super concerned with how he would be president from now or whenever he becomes president to 2028. It's if he were to win another term, that's when we would have to worry about what he does. Unless, of course, there's you can be run for two more terms if as long as you're not president more than 11 years, I think is what the Constitution says. But I think the felon goes before that. You get the Ten of Cups. It's like this was always part of the plan. Uh, we get the Empress and the lower left. It's like he's been nurturing this situation for years and years and years to make it a reality. And here's the puppeteer, which is what I was describing in the environment around. And Vance is the puppeteer, and MUSK and the felon are the puppets in this situation. They're the ones we're watching, but the person really pulling the strings that we can't see I feel is Vance. And here's the card for MUSK, the magician. So it's like things come into balance, stability's repaired in a sense, and MUSK is gone. Now, stability being repaired doesn't mean that things are great. So I'm not saying Vance is going to be a great president. What I'm saying is that a lot of the chaos just kind of goes away. It's, you know, more of a like a George W. Bush starting a war bad, although I don't think Vance is going to start a war, but it's like that kind of bad. It's at least predictable and not chaotic. Vance has been nurturing this concept for a very long time. Uh, and I think he victoriously assumes the presidency. Now, I don't see him winning an election, but we'll have to look at that closer when it's actually feels like the right time to read on it. Um, I think it'll happen faster than we realize. I think Vance has just been able to keep his head above water just enough that he'll have a reasonable shot at governance. He's been tainted by MAGA for sure, but it's like people don't really know who he is because we're so uninformed in this country. You know, I don't know that, 50% of the country even knows who the vice president is. So he'll be seen as this family man, especially in comparison to the felon for the people that don't know him. And in reality, he's the puppeteer here, pulling the strings and kind of very coyly and with just really minimal psychology making these things happen. So underneath we have the Queen of Pentacles. Um, like he's been nurturing this idea for a while. It's been going through his head on how to achieve it. And then it's kind of like here he is, the emperor, and nobody's any wiser. People see him as the emperor, even though really he's this tiny man who manipulated his way into it. And the felons out of the picture with the Ten of Swords again. That's being stabbed in the back. It's complete utter downfall. His reputation completely ruined. And again, now his reputation's already ruined with people like us, but the MAGA folks are also going to start to turn away from him as things get revealed as well. So anyhow, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think we might get a lull in the fight for a while, and then it might spring back up. I do think the one really positive thing out of this is that this almost ensures that the Senate changes the bill that the House sent to them. So that's good. And it will be changed for the better. It still won't be a good bill, but it won't be as extreme. So, all right. Thank you for watching. I'll be back with another video.